September 1st, 1939. Morning light spreads across the English Midlands, thin and pale as factory windows sweat with condensation. Somewhere between Birmingham and Coventry, a whistle cuts the air. Not an air raid siren, not yet. Just a shift change. Inside a long brick building that most maps still list as a tractor works, the floor trembles. Steel presses thump in rhythm. Rivet guns chatter like insects trapped in tin cans. Oil hangs heavy in the air, sharp enough to sting the eyes. Men and women pull on gloves still warm from the last shift, stepping into places they were never meant to stand when the building was designed. You can hear it if you listen closely, Britain holding its breath. At the far end of the floor stands Arthur Collins. He is not famous. He will never be quoted in a history book. Arthur is a foreman, mid-40s, shoulders permanently hunched from years leaning over machinery. He runs a hand along a curved sheet of aluminum, feeling for imperfections with the care of a watchmaker. This piece will become part of a wing, not for a civilian plane, not anymore. Arthur glances at the clock nailed above the office door. War has been declared. Officially. Clean words for something that already feels dirty and loud and close. Across the aisle, Lily Grant tightens a bolt, her fingers black with grease. 2 months ago, she worked in a bicycle shop. She learned aircraft tolerances in 3 weeks. No one asked if that was enough time. There wasn't time to ask. The building was never meant to make airplanes. And that is exactly the point. Years before this morning, before speeches and gas masks and blackout curtains, Britain made a decision that felt reckless even to its own planners. Instead of building a few massive, obvious aircraft plants, the country would scatter production like seeds. Automobile factories, appliance plants, train workshops. Facilities that could vanish into ordinary life. Places that did not look like targets. They called them shadow factories. The idea was simple on paper and terrifying in practice. If war came, these places would slide out of the civilian world and into the machinery of survival. Entire production lines would transform almost overnight. The gamble was scale. Not brilliance, not individual genius, scale. On this September morning, the gamble is no longer theoretical. Arthur remembers the first day the jigs arrived, crates with no markings, men from London who spoke quietly and never stayed long. Blueprints that came rolled tight and were collected at the end of each shift. He remembers someone asking, half joking, what would happen if the Germans found out? No one laughed. The answer was already known. A single aircraft plant can be destroyed. 100 ordinary buildings doing extraordinary work are harder to erase. As the machines warm, the floor manager walks the aisle, clipboard tucked under his arm. Output targets have been revised again, upward, always upward. The numbers don't care about fatigue or mistakes. The numbers only care about the sky. Because across the channel, another system is waking up too, one built on speed, confidence, and the belief that Britain cannot replace what it loses. That belief will become a fatal miscalculation. By noon, the first fuselage sections are wheeled into position. They look unfinished, fragile, like something that should still be a sketch. Lily watches as it moves past her station, trying not to think about where it will end up. She has a brother in uniform. Everyone does now. The noise grows as the day settles in. Hammer strikes echo. Overhead cranes groan. A radio somewhere near the lockers murmurs news through static, but no one stops to listen. The work demands attention. One mistake here doesn't just scrap metal. It costs time. And time is something Britain is already spending faster than it can count. Arthur leans toward a young man struggling with a rivet gun, guiding his hands without raising his voice. There is no room for shouting. Too many new faces. Too many people learning while doing. This is not peacetime manufacturing, where perfection is the goal. This is wartime production, where good enough, fast enough, can mean the difference between a pilot coming home or not. Outside, lorries idle in the yard, canvas flaps snapping in the breeze. They will carry parts away to other towns, other shadows. Wings from here, engines from somewhere else. Final assembly miles away. No single place holds the whole secret. By late afternoon, clouds roll in. The light dims. The factory windows glow amber from within like a ship at sea. From the road, it looks ordinary, just another industrial building working overtime. But inside, Britain is quietly building an answer to a question Germany has not yet realized it needs to ask. How do you defeat a country that can replace its losses faster than you can destroy them? As Arthur clocks out, his ears ringing, he pauses at the door and looks back at the floor. At Lily, at the half-built aircraft skin catching the light. Tomorrow they will do it again, and again, and again. Because this factory, this unremarkable place, is part of something far bigger than itself. A machine built too large to see all at once, too dispersed to silence, too determined to stop. October 1939, 6:45 in the morning. The road into Castle Bromwich is already thick with bicycles. Their bells ring softly as workers weave past one another in the half-light, coats buttoned tight, breath fogging the air. The factory ahead of them stretches wide and low, its roofline broken into sections like a row of warehouses. It does not look like a place where history is being made. It looks like a place where refrigerators or buses should be built. Inside, the floor hums with life. Frank Holloway stands near the center bay, sleeves rolled up, tie stuffed into his pocket. He used to manage automobile assembly. Now he manages something that refuses to behave like a car. Airplanes are lighter, finer, less forgiving, and every single one of them will be pushed to the edge of its limits. Frank checks his clipboard, then looks up as a fuselage frame glides overhead on a crane. It sways slightly, catching the light. He feels the familiar twist in his stomach. Not fear exactly, pressure, the kind that never leaves. And orders arrive daily, revised schedules, new tolerances, urgent notes stamped with red ink. Somewhere far above Frank's pay grade, men argue over priorities, fighters versus bombers, speed versus range. But on this floor, the argument is settled by what the machines can do before the next shift clock starts. At the edge of the bay, Nora Patel adjusts a drill jig, her hands steady despite the noise. Her father ran a corner shop. She studied bookkeeping. Now she works 12-hour shifts shaping metal skins that will soon face flak and fire. She has learned not to imagine the sky. Thinking about the sky makes her hesitate. Hesitation slows everything down. Across Britain, scenes like this unfold at the same hour. In Coventry, in Bristol, in towns whose names will never appear in headlines. This is the shadow system waking fully for the first time. The genius of it is not secrecy alone. It is redundancy. If one factory stumbles, another compensates. If one is hit, 10 more keep going. Parts move like blood through veins. Engine blocks here, wings there, instruments somewhere else entirely. No single failure stops the flow. German planners know Britain builds aircraft. They have numbers, estimates, charts. What they do not see is the sprawl, the quiet multiplication happening behind unassuming brick walls. And so they underestimate. Late one afternoon, a supervisor brings word down the line. Output targets are increasing again. There's a moment, just a flicker, where hands pause, where eyes meet. Then the drills spin back up, because everyone understands what this means. Somewhere, planes are being lost faster than expected. At the end of the shift, Frank steps outside as the sun sinks behind the factory roof. The sky burns orange and red, streaked with clouds. For a second, it looks like fire. He shakes his head and lights a cigarette. He has stopped counting hours. He measures time now in deliveries. A lorry pulls out of the yard, canvas sides tied down tight. Inside are wings bound for final assembly. They will not stay together long. Another truck will take them farther south. Another still will carry engines from a different city. When the aircraft finally takes shape, no single worker will be able to say, "I built this." And that is exactly how it is meant to be. By winter, the system tightens. Training becomes faster. Mistakes become rarer. The rhythm improves. Where early weeks felt chaotic, now there's momentum. A dangerous thing if allowed to slow, but unstoppable once it finds its pace. Radio sets crackle with news as workers eat lunch beside machines still warm to the touch. The war is moving closer. There are reports of air raids on the coast, of aircraft losses, of pilots fighting until fuel runs dry. Someone mentions the Royal Air Force. Another mentions the Luftwaffe. Names spoken quietly, without drama. Everyone knows what is coming. No one knows when. Nora finishes her shift under flickering lights as blackout curtains are drawn tight across the windows. Outside, the town dims to near darkness. No headlights, no street lamps, only silhouettes and the sound of footsteps heading home. She pauses at the gate, turning back to look at the factory one last time before cycling away. In daylight, it looks ordinary. At night, it disappears almost completely. That is its strength. The shadow factories are no longer an experiment. They are producing faster than anyone predicted. Faster than Germany believes possible. Faster than Britain dares to announce. And when the air war finally arrives in full, when bombers come not in rumors but in waves, these places will already be running at a speed that cannot be easily slowed. Britain is not building a single answer. It is building thousands of small ones. And soon, the sky will demand every last one of them. November 14th, 1940, 7:20 p.m. Coventry. The sirens begin as a low moan, almost polite at first, then rise into something sharper, something that cuts through walls and skin. In a row house not far from the factories, windows are darkened, doors already bolted. People move without speaking. They have practiced this. Across town, inside a machine shop officially listed as a metal fabrication works, Arthur Collins feels the vibration before he hears the blast. The floor shudders. Dust rains from the rafters. Somewhere, glass breaks. No one runs. They have been told not to. The lights stay on, dimmed, shielded, carefully controlled. Work does not stop. Not yet. The foreman's voice carries over the noise, steady, almost calm. Stay at your stations. Keep moving. Outside, the night sky flickers. Searchlights claw upward, white fingers grasping at clouds. Anti-aircraft guns answer with heavy thuds that seem to come from everywhere at once. The air smells wrong now. Smoke, burning cordite, something sweet and terrible. This is the moment the shadow factories were built for. German bombers sweep in waves, aiming for rail yards, power stations, anything that looks like it matters. And they hit plenty. Streets vanish. Buildings fold in on themselves. Coventry burns. But the production web does not snap. Arthur grips the edge of his bench as another explosion lands closer this time. The building groans, but holds. Reinforced roofs, sandbags, fire crews already on standby. These precautions were expensive, slow, mocked in peacetime. Tonight, they earn their cost. In another part of the Midlands, Nora Patel works beneath blackout curtains so thick they turn noon into twilight. The machines drown out distant impacts. She doesn't know which city is being hit. She only knows the drills must keep spinning. Her hands shake once. She forces them still. Some factories are struck. Some are damaged badly enough to halt production for days. A few are lost entirely. But for every plant that goes dark, others surge forward, absorbing the load. Schedules are rewritten overnight, parts rerouted, workers reassigned. This is not resilience born in the moment. It is resilience designed. By morning, smoke drifts over the ruins of Coventry. The sun rises weak and pale through a dirty sky. Reporters will later call it devastating. And it is. But something crucial has survived. Britain's ability to build aircraft has not been broken. In Berlin, planners study reconnaissance photos and try to understand what they are seeing. Factories appear destroyed. Yet production numbers refuse to fall the way the charts say they should. New aircraft keep appearing at airfields. Losses are being replaced, sometimes faster than before. It doesn't make sense. That confusion becomes a weapon. Back at Castle Bromwich, Frank Holloway stands on the floor as crews work around damaged roof panels patched with fresh metal. Rain drips through in places. Buckets line the aisles. No one complains. Complaining wastes breath. A notice goes up on the board. Output expectations revised. Again, higher. Frank closes his eyes for a moment and then nods. All right, he says, let's go. The days blur together. Air raids by night, production by day. Sleep becomes something borrowed in pieces. Workers nap beside machines during breaks, jackets pulled over faces, alarms always close enough to wake them instantly. There are losses on the factory floor too. Accidents, fatigue, names crossed off rosters, funerals attended quietly, then back to work the next morning. Not because anyone is heartless, but because stopping feels like surrender. Arthur begins carrying a notebook in his pocket. He writes down small things, adjustments, tricks, faster ways to train new hands. These notes are copied and passed to other sites. Knowledge spreads as quickly as parts. This, too, was planned. As winter deepens, German raids shift focus. London, ports, infrastructure. The factories are no longer the only targets. Some, hidden far from obvious objectives, are barely touched at all. And through it all, aircraft continue to roll out. Not perfect, not elegant, but ready. Pilots climbing into cockpits will never meet most of the people who built their machines. They will never know Nora's name, or Frank's, or Arthur's. But they will feel the result of that labor in the way an engine responds, in the way a wing holds under strain. The Shadow system has done something remarkable. It has turned vulnerability into multiplication. By trying to smash everything at once, Germany has discovered it is fighting something without a single center, without a single point of failure. A system that can be hurt, but not killed easily. As the year closes, Britain stands battered but breathing, and in hangars across the country, new aircraft wait in growing numbers. The sky is still dangerous, but now it is no longer empty. March 1941, 4:10 a.m. The Midlands are silent under frost. Inside the vast halls of the Castle Bromwich aircraft factory, the night shift is finishing. Steam rises from mugs of tea held in tired hands. Machines tick as they cool, metal shrinking with faint clicks that sound like insects in the dark. Frank Holloway walks the length of the floor one last time before day shift arrives. He counts aircraft by instinct now, not by clipboard. Fuselages lined like sleeping animals, wings stacked in careful rows. There are more than yesterday. There are always more than yesterday. This is the turning point, though no one calls it that out loud. By spring, Britain is no longer chasing losses. It is beginning to outrun them. Nora Patel finishes her shift and steps outside, blinking as dawn creeps over the rooftops. The cold air bites her cheeks. She pulls her coat tighter and listens. No sirens, no engines overhead. Just birds, confused by the quiet. She thinks of the planes she helped build, already flown south, already absorbed into squadrons she will never see. Somewhere, pilots are counting on them. She doesn't picture dogfights. She pictures landings, wheels touching grass, men walking away. Inside another factory miles away, Arthur Collins is already back at work. He volunteered for overtime again. Everyone did. The system now feeds on momentum. Training times are shorter, scrap rates are down, parts arrive on schedule more often than not. The chaos of 1939 feels distant, like a bad dream remembered without emotion. This is not because the danger has passed. It is because the fear has been replaced by routine. German raids continue, but the shock has worn off. Workers know where to stand, which machines can be shut down fastest, how to move production when a line is damaged. Fire crews drill between shifts. Repairs happen while other sections keep running. The factories have learned how to heal while moving. By mid-year, aircraft output reaches levels that would have seemed impossible just months earlier. The numbers are not shouted from rooftops. They are whispered in offices, shared in guarded memos, because numbers like these change how wars are fought. In airfields across Britain, dispersal crews push fighters into hedgerows and tree lines. Pilots arrive, surprised to find replacements waiting. Not one or two, but rows. Enough to plan, enough to breathe. This changes everything. German intelligence struggles to explain it. Reports speak of unexpected resilience, of unaccounted production. The assumption that bombing would cripple British aircraft supply proves wrong again and again. What they missed was not courage, it was organization. Britain did not rely on a miracle. It relied on systems, on thousands of ordinary people doing the same difficult tasks, day after day, until the extraordinary became normal. Frank attends a brief meeting near the end of his shift. Output targets are discussed, adjusted, raised. He doesn't argue anymore. He just asks what resources he needs and how fast they can arrive. Afterward, he stands alone on the floor, listening to the echo of his own footsteps. He thinks back to the early days when everything felt fragile, when every raid felt like it might end the experiment. Now, the experiment has matured into something solid, something heavy, something that hums even when the lights are off. Nora pins a photograph above her bench, her brother in uniform smiling awkwardly at the camera. He wrote last week, said the planes feel different now, more reliable, easier to trust. He doesn't know why. She does. Arthur trains a new foreman, passing on his notebook of shortcuts and lessons. The pages are smudged, dog-eared. He never planned to become a teacher. War made him one. As summer approaches, the sky over Britain fills with friendly engines more often than hostile ones. Losses still happen. Pilots still die. There is no illusion of safety. But there is something else now, something solid beneath the fear. Replacement. The ability to absorb punishment and keep going. This is what overwhelms German expectations. Not a single factory they can bomb. Not a single moment they can point to and say, that is where Britain broke. Because Britain didn't break, it adapted. And as the shadow factories continue to feed the airfields, the balance above the clouds begins to shift. Not dramatically, not all at once, but steadily. Relentlessly, built too big to hide, built too spread out to destroy. Built by people who learned, under pressure, how to outproduce fear itself. August 1942, just after noon, somewhere in southern England. Heat shimmers above a grass airfield as mechanics wave a fighter forward. The engine coughs, then settles into a steady roar. A pilot climbs the wing, pauses, and looks down the line. There are more aircraft than he expected. Enough to choose from. Enough to replace what was lost last week. Enough to make plans instead of prayers. This moment, quiet, almost casual, is what the shadow factories were really built to create. Not spectacle, not headlines, but continuity. Inside the factories, the pace no longer feels frantic. It feels permanent. Shifts rotate with practiced precision. Supplies arrive predictably. Breakdowns are logged, rerouted around, and fixed without drama. What once felt like improvisation has hardened into doctrine. Arthur Collins retires from the floor that autumn. On his last day, he walks the length of the factory slowly, hand trailing along the machines he once knew by sound alone. Younger foremen nod to him with respect. They do not know how close the system came to failure in the beginning. They only know that it works. That, Arthur realizes, may be the greatest success of all. Nora Patel has moved into supervision. She trains new hires, farm girls, shop clerks, students, showing them how to trust their hands, how to work fast without rushing. She tells them only what they need to know. Too much information slows people down. The system has learned that lesson well. Frank Holloway still carries a clipboard, though he barely looks at it anymore. He measures success in quieter ways now. Fewer delays, fewer panicked calls, more aircraft leaving the yard on schedule. When he hears bombers overhead, he no longer wonders if this is the night it all ends. He wonders how quickly repairs will be finished. By now, German expectations have collapsed under their own assumptions. The belief that Britain would crack under sustained bombing has proven false. Aircraft losses are matched, then exceeded. Air power no longer feels scarce. It feels managed. This does not win the war on its own, but it makes winning possible. The brilliance of Britain's wartime aircraft production was never in a single factory or a single design. It was in accepting an uncomfortable truth early, that modern war is not won by moments of genius alone, but by systems that survive damage and keep moving. The shadow factories were not heroic places. They were loud, dirty, exhausting. They demanded patience more than bravery, and yet, without them, courage in the cockpit would have meant far less. Years later, many of these buildings will return to civilian life. They will make cars again, appliances, tools. People will pass them without looking twice. The scars will fade. The urgency will vanish. But for a few critical years, these ordinary places carried extraordinary weight. They proved that air power could be built quietly, that resilience could be engineered. That scale, when designed carefully, could overwhelm even the most confident enemy expectations. The factory that gave Britain air power was never just one factory. It was a network, a rhythm, a machine too big to hide and too spread out to destroy. And when the skies finally began to tilt in Britain's favor, it was not because of a single moment of triumph. It was because, day after day, behind blackout curtains and under rattling roofs, the work never stopped.